Hello, everyone, and welcome to Metaphysical Mondays, mental health, mysticism, and metaphysics discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Taban. As always, I am your host of Metaphysical Science TV, Mike Ray. We will be just recapping very quickly what we have learned so far from this series in Metaphysical Mondays, and then we will just go on to setting it up for what we are going to learn next time and what we will be discussing in our other pod classes, including these Metaphysical Mondays, mental health, mysticism, and metaphysics discussions, the Wednesday pod classes, mental health, metaphysics, and spirituality talk with Mike Ray, and the Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah class with Dr. Gill pod classes, which are on Thursdays. A bit of a change of plans and schedule due to lack in audience participation in recent weeks. We will now be doing it only once a month. That is until we start to see more of you guys being interested in it and wanting to come in and join and participate. Dr. Giltabon does take a very long time and a lot of effort to put these lectures together for us, and he would like to see a little bit more of an interaction from the audience, which I understand is very difficult, seeing as a lot of you are scattered all over the world. You're in different time zones. Yes, these classes are during the week. Sometimes it is hard for people to find the time, and that is why we do the uploads and the replays on Metaphysical Science TV, which is so that you guys could get a chance to actually respond to it and ask us questions for the next week. So please do not be shy. Do realize that we will be having virtual classrooms. We do have virtual classrooms. And if you do wish to appear in the virtual classrooms and ask questions to us and speak to us face to face, one on one, then you will be recorded and uploaded into the replay. So just keep that in mind, that they will be being uploaded to YouTube and then redistributed onto other platforms such as Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind. If anybody wants to join us, you are more than welcome. We invite you to join the discussion and stick in through the lecture portion into the interactive portion, just like tonight, just like Wednesdays. Thursdays will be the same, and we will be continuing with releasing the videos in the same manner and same timely fashion as always. So not much is actually going to change, but if you do want to start seeing extra content and more content from either myself, Dr. Giltamon, or any of the new or special guest teachers we may be having in recent days, well, then that is up for you guys to let us know. Okay, well, now that we've gotten those announcements out of the way, we will continue on without further ado to Metaphysical Mondays, mental health, mysticism, and metaphysics discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Tabam. Okay, so far as we have gone over so far, we will just recap very quickly. We have gone over in my Wednesday pod classes, specifically the 7 Hermetic principles. We have mentioned Hermeticism or Hermetics multiple times in the past, multiple times in the Kabbalah classes, and even more during the mental health, spirituality, and metaphysics talks. There is a reason behind this, and that is because the 7 Hermetic principles are somewhat universal laws or underlying governing uh, attributes and sets of energetic vibrations and patterns which creation is painted with, so to speak. So just to summarize very quickly what we have gone over so far so that we could jump in right ahead to what we are going to discuss today and weeks to come and on other podclasses. Summarize what we've learned so far. When it comes to healing through metaphysics, which is what the topic of discussion has been, we need to identify the root causes of each of our problems or challenges. We need to overcome the needless desperation of ourselves. This applies to men or women. Of course, that is to say that we need to get over ourselves. We need to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and really get ourselves out of a slump and really climb the hill sometimes and climb that flight of stairs. We need to start acting the way we want to be. I said last class, sometimes people use the expression fake it until you make it. Well, if you do ever make it, then you never were faking it. So if you fake it until you make it, the trick of that the whole time was that you never were faking it. You actually were doing it, because if you put in the effort, if you put in the work, and if you get the results, then there is no faking it. You cannot fake results. We have to stop opposing self-limitations on ourselves that we have been subjected to, and we have been programmed by society or by others and by their opinions into believing who we are and believing these limitations that others have put on us and our environment and our external reality, our society, civilization. And we need to find and learn how to grow through change, coming closer to who we truly are through adversity and through opposition. You cannot create different results by using the same mindset you use to create your current results. So again, growth through change. If you don't like where you are in life at the moment and you want to change things, well, then you have to move out of your comfort zone. You have to move out of what you're used to, and you can't create the same, right? You can't create different results using that same mindset you use to create your current results or your current environment and current situations. And of course, the questions, what solutions do mysticism or metaphysics have to offer? I would just edit that question a little bit. What solutions do applied mysticism or metaphysical sciences have to offer? And that is to discover your true identity. What does this mean? Well, not everyone will walk the same path. Each person has their own individual path to finding their true identity, and not everyone's personal truth will be the same. There are personal truths and collective or universal truths. When you have truly found and know yourself, you will have less fear to live like a king and not be as a king or queen and not be as affected by negativity and the negative actions or behaviors. And I would also add negative opinions or thoughts and beliefs and views of others. And how do we begin? Practical metaphysics and applied mysticism. Now, of course, another thing we have discussed is the two selves. There is this false self, this lower nature, the shadow self, or the ego self, the ego, which is an illusion. Beyond this physical, materialistic, and animalistic, mundane reality, it does not exist. It is an illusion that has been created by these subsets of different stereotypes and labels and traditions and factors in society that tell us who we are rather than us finding who we are for ourselves, as opposed to our true self, which is our higher self or divine self, has been called by a number of different things. It has been called the universal mind, the cosmic mind, infinite mind, pure mind, spirit, God mind, or even sometimes referred to as being God. But we know it as the all, the universal consciousness, or the mind of God. And of course, it is released and realized by first acknowledging its existence, knowing that we do have this self that is beyond just our physical urges, our needs, and our wants, and that who we are is a lot more than meets the surface. And of course, the question, why metaphysics? Well, through metaphysical medicine, we address the mind, body, and the soul of an individual and all the many parts which they are composed of, and we help them to see through the illusion of their false self and to be able to connect with that higher reality of their higher self, their divine self, that connection to the divinity, that one mind that shines through our soul, that Holy Spirit, the one great Spirit which emanates or shines through all of us like a prism. And each of us, we have a soul that is a piece of that spirit, which is shining through our physical body. And there is this correspondence and this intimate entwinement between the physical body and our cells and our atoms and the molecules within us, all the different elements, and how that corresponds to the metaphysical reality, or rather the spiritual reality that we are also immersed in. Because what it comes down to is that we do not only exist in just 2D or 3D, rather. Um, as scientists have discovered, and I'll just bring up the quote right now. As scientists have discovered, our brains can process the world in up to 11 dimensions, at least. Some people say 12 or even higher. A Swiss team of researchers from the Blue Brain Project uh, discovered that the brain is full of multidimensional geometrical structures operating in as many as 11 dimensions. Now, this echoes what we have said in previous podclasses about the Kabbalistic tree of life. Now, we thought, by we mean scholars, have thought for centuries that the representation of the tree of life that we are familiar with was only meant to be represented in 2D, but through different Kabbalistic writings and mystics and sages throughout the ages, no need, no intention to rhyme there, we have found out that, as we could see all the way on the left side of the screen here, that the tree of life was not only meant to be in 2D. Through writings, we learned that it is actually multi-dimensional, and it is unknown exactly how many dimensions of creation there truly are, but if it is truly an eternal uh, existence, and if you were looking at the tree of life, if the top of the tree of life, there is another kingdom, or there is another bottom of the tree of life, and it keeps going on and on forever and ever. Well, then it is not very hard to understand that there might be the multiverse, there might be a entire continuum of multiverses, or a multiverse in which there are an infinite, or at least innumerable, or a number that we can't count to, of universes throughout existence. And of course, that includes parallel universes, each with, their own subsets of at least 11 dimensions, each having a dimension of space and time. So you take that into account, and we really don't know exactly how vast this reality is. But one of the things that we do know are that we are not as limited as we once believed when it comes to actually understanding these different things. Now, I will just take a moment to bring up a illustration. As we have talked about dealing or metaphysics, we have also slightly touched upon a couple of other questions, which I brought up now, one of which has been asked by you guys. How do we manage between our two selves, meaning the higher self and the lower self? And the next question would be, how do we connect the lower to the higher divine will of the universal consciousness? And of course, we have illustrations here showing all the way on the left, we have the divine will all the way up top at the crown sphere on the tree of life, or as we would call it in Eastern philosophy, the crown chakra, or the solar chakra, which hovers about a foot and a half above the head. And this is where the Akashic records are. This is where our higher self resides, or the Holy Spirit, which is connected intimately with the one mind, the universal consciousness of everything. So that is the divine will. Then you come down in the middle pillar here, all the way on the left, you see it is highlighted. You have this little sphere, this circle here, which isn't filled in. That is the sphere of Dath, which means knowledge. And of course, that is in between these upper sphere for a specific reason. And that is because, as you can see here, these are in different worlds or planes of creation that are above the dimensional realities that we have uh, access to with just the physical senses. So how do we connect the lower to the higher? Well, the more something makes us feel that we are being driven by the divine and those things which are good in the eyes of God, which we can learn from reading the words of the scriptures and seeing how other people who had experiences with God, what they were able to confirm, what they have in common, and not opposing one another, what things they have in common and are a common theme that you will find between them, not the differences. This is how we can determine that the will is being driven, or the idea being given by the will, divine will, and is of God. So how do we know when something is truly coming from the divine will through our knowledge, through all of these energy centers, these chakras, these sphera, as you call them on the Kabbalistic tree of life, all the way down to our body's will, which is our false self, the lower self, the ego, as opposed to our higher authentic self, which would be found above the human collective will. Well, one of the things that we want to do is we want to try to connect the lower to the higher. But of course, what does that mean? And I don't think we have really touched upon this in just layman's terms, what it means to connect the higher to the lower. And I think a perfect example of this would be the next slide, where again, I have the 7 Hermetic principles listed, and on the right-hand side, it says all other principles are a manifestation or emanation of the principle of mentalism, that all is mind, the universe is mental. So everything is coming from this universal consciousness, this one mind, that in order to try to manage between our two selves and to try to connect the higher with the lower, we have to find the right balance in order to elevate the physical to become spiritual, and to bring the spiritual down into the physical. Bringing the spiritual to the physical to transform it, and vice versa. There must be balance between attending and caring for the evolution and growth of both, including mind, body, and soul balance. In this process, we should not give into our lower physical carnal urges or desires. This means that anything that we know or that we could sense or even have to question whether or not it is coming from a higher vibration and the divine, or if it is coming from our lower physical and false ego self, our shadow self, well, we have to try to discern, we have to develop the discernment to know what physical urges and feelings are just sometimes very strong and sometimes very overbearing and overwhelming and make us think that that is the right course of action. And we have to learn how to navigate between what truly is in alignment with the divine will of God, or as it says in the scriptures, is good of God. So of course, because of this principle of mentalism, this idea or this axiom that all is mind, the universe is mental, we have to keep in mind that when we're trying to heal from something or unlearn something, to never own a disease and to reduce the amount of time that you talk about being ill and refuse to allow illness a place in your consciousness. Now, this encapsulates the, idea of think no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, create no evil, or something along those lines. And it is also taught in metaphysical medicine to metaphysicians and metaphysical practitioners, as well as anybody across the spiritual spectrum when it comes to healing, is that it is not always a good idea to vocalize or to externalize your problems or your issues. It is best sometimes to just keep it within. Of course, sometimes it doesn't sound like the best course of action. It might even sound a little counterintuitive. But the point of this is to live in a vibration and to try to stay in a vibration where you are, as I alluded to before and we have said before, you fake it until you make it, which isn't really the best phrase for that technique, but rather, instead of fake it until you make it, act the way you want to be. And so you don't tell other people what a difficult time you are having, as this only builds up further negativity in your mind and will also be reflected back to you psychically by the people whom you tell. So discuss your situation only with someone you know is very positive, or with your metaphysical science minister or your counselor, whoever it is who you could trust in and confide in, to open up to, and will give you positive feedback and information, who won't judge you, and who won't do anything that will lower your vibration. And never feel that God or the universe has failed you, or that you have failed God or other people during difficult times. Blaming God, yourself, or someone else will only prolong the negative trend, and through such negativity prevent your God mind, your higher self, your divine will, from being able to shine through and surfacing to your conscious mind with direction for a positive new trend in your life, going in a new direction. And of course, the metaphysical psychology of consciousness, there is one great truth, and that truth is that there is but one mind in the universe. All minds are inseparable from this one great mind, and so-called individual minds are individualized expressions of the one great mind. And the one great mind, of course, as we know it, is the universal consciousness, this Holy Spirit, the higher self that we are all connected to. And sometimes this is called God. However, God in Hebrew is a title for King of the universe, which is something separate. So right now we were talking about more something along the lines of source consciousness or Christ consciousness, the cosmic mind, universal mind, just pure spirit, pure source energy. And when it comes to dealing with this energy, understanding these principles, these 7 Hermetic principles, as we have gone over so far in previous lessons, as well as today, remembering all other principles are a manifestation or emanation of this principle of mentalism, which is that all is mind, the universe is mental. This is when we start to understand on our deeper level why it is so important to watch where our train of thought is going and to watch what path we are starting to go down when it comes to our actions reflecting our thoughts reflecting our actions, our diet, remembering that our diet is not just what we eat or what we ingest, but also what we listen to, what we see, what we hear, what we think about. And of course, all these things are going to affect one another in a corresponding nature. What we think about is going to affect what we will do and what we will act upon, and how we act. As I've said before, we want to act the way we want to. I would like to thank everyone again for joining us, everyone who is watching, everyone who participated. I want to thank you for everyone for sending in questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to them. We will see you next time, same place, same time, even more to discover. I bid you all a good afternoon, morning, noon, night, whatever time it is, whenever you are, wherever you are, wherever you're watching. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. This has been Metaphysical Mondays, Mental Health, Mysticism, and Metaphysics Discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Tavon. As always, I've been your host of Metaphysical Sciences TV, Mike Ray. Until next time, thank you for joining us, everybody.